Adam slowly pushed open the back door of the office building. The New York sky was already dark. Streetlights and neon signs lit the sidewalk in patches of pale yellow and blue. Dressed in a faded navy blue janitor uniform, he wheeled his cleaning cart into the hallway. He had done this every night for the past 8 months. Adam was 24 years old. He hadn't finished college. In fact, he barely made it through high school. After his parents passed away when he was 17, he'd been on his own. First working at a grocery store, then as a warehouse loader, then part-time delivery. The janitor job was his most stable job yet. It didn't pay much, but it was enough to survive. Every night from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., the building was his world. Everyone else had gone home. The lights in the cubicles were off. It was quiet, almost peaceful. Adam liked that. No one bothered him, and he didn't have to pretend to be someone he wasn't. He started on the 13th floor. Like always, mop, sweep, dust, empty trash bins, wipe down desks. It was routine, room by room. He worked carefully, making sure not to disturb anything. He took pride in keeping the office clean, even if no one noticed. Sometimes he found papers left on desks or in the trash that caught his interest. Charts, diagrams, sticky notes filled with plans and strategies. He didn't always understand the terms market value, equity funding, scalable infrastructure, but he was curious. At home, he'd search them on his old second-hand laptop. The more he read, the more fascinated he became. He never told anyone about that. That night, as he pushed his cart down the hallway, he reached conference room 4B. The door was still open. The lights were on. He paused. Inside, a woman was sitting alone at the head of the table. Her posture was tense. Her phone was on the table beside her, screen lighting up with unread notifications. She didn't look up. Adam cleared his throat quietly. "Excuse me. Do you mind if I clean in here?" She looked at him with a cold expression. Her eyes were sharp behind thin-framed glasses. Her white blouse was neatly pressed, her blazer folded over the back of the chair. "Can you come back later?" she said. "I'm working." Adam nodded quickly. "Sure. Sorry." He backed out of the room and gently closed the door. He knew who she was. Everyone did. Rachel. She had started as an intern 2 years ago and now held a manager's title. Some said it was her drive. Others said she had powerful connections. Either way, she was moving fast. Too fast for most people's comfort. Rumor around the office was that Rachel didn't care who she stepped on, as long as she got ahead. Adam didn't judge. He didn't know her story. But he remembered the first time she walked past him and didn't even glance his way. Like he wasn't there. He was used to being invisible, but with her, it somehow stung more. He moved on to the break room. There, he wiped the counters, arranged the coffee pods, and cleaned the microwave. A few moments later, he heard footsteps. Rachel walked in, still typing something furiously into her phone. She didn't say anything. Adam stood aside and let her pass. As she reached for the coffee machine, her phone rang. She answered immediately. "Yes. I already sent the report. If the board doesn't like it, they can draft a new one themselves." Her voice was sharp, impatient. She didn't notice Adam still standing by the sink. "I'm tired of cleaning up after people who don't know what they're doing," she continued. "Maybe if they hired better employees, I wouldn't have to micromanage everything." Adam heard every word but kept his head down. After she left, he went to the storage closet and sat on the step stool inside for a few minutes. Sometimes, this was the only place he could breathe. He took out his notebook, a small brown one with dog-eared pages. In it, he wrote down new words he didn't understand, things he wanted to look up later, random thoughts. He had decorated the cover with a quote he liked. "Work hard in silence. Let success make the noise." He thought about giving it to someone one day. Someone who might believe in him. He didn't expect it to be tonight. Later, as he cleaned the lobby, he saw Rachel again. She was heading toward the elevator, arms full of folders. She looked stressed, her movements sharp and rushed. Something made Adam speak. "Miss Rachel," he said quietly. She turned, eyebrows raised. He held out the notebook. "I made this," he said. "It's just some notes and quotes. I thought maybe you'd like it. You seem like someone who works really hard." Rachel looked at the notebook as if it were a used tissue. She didn't touch it. "What is this?" she asked. "A notebook," Adam replied. "I decorated it myself. It's not much, but—" She cut him off. "You think giving me this will change something?" she said, voice flat. "You're just a janitor." Adam stood still. She continued. "You clean floors. I manage teams. We're not in the same world. So no, I don't want your notebook." There was silence. Rachel turned and stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. Adam slowly lowered his hand. The notebook was still in it. He looked at it for a long moment, then slipped it back into his pocket. That night, when he finished his shift, he didn't go straight home. He walked 2 extra blocks to a 24-hour diner, ordered the cheapest item on the menu, sat there with his thoughts. Maybe she was right. Maybe he really was just a janitor. But something in his chest refused to believe that was the end of his story. He remembered the faces of his parents. His father always said, "Life doesn't owe you anything. You owe it to yourself to keep going." Adam decided that night he was going to build something of his own. Not to prove Rachel wrong, but to prove to himself that he could. The notebook stayed in his jacket pocket. 15 years later, someone else would open it, and everything would change. 2 weeks after Adam quit his janitor job, his routine changed completely. He woke up each day around 10 a.m., when the sun was already high in the sky and the city had long moved past its morning rush. His room was still the same, small, cold, and dim. The mattress was thin, the blanket worn out. The desk by the window held nothing but a cracked laptop, his notebook, and a cheap cup of instant coffee. But his mind had started to shift. Every day, after a quick shower and breakfast, usually toast and black coffee, Adam sat at his desk, opened his laptop, and went online. He didn't scroll through social media. He didn't watch random videos. Instead, he typed things into Google. Things like, how to start a business with no money, free online courses for beginners, what is equity, what is coding, how to learn to code for free. He read slowly, sometimes having to reread the same article 3 or 4 times before he understood what it was saying. But he didn't stop. He took notes, filled page after page in his notebook. Some days, he watched YouTube tutorials for hours. Other days, he'd follow long online guides from websites like Khan Academy and Coursera. No one was pushing him. No one cared if he succeeded or failed. That was the hardest part, but also the most powerful. For the first time, Adam was learning for himself. No grades, no teachers, just determination. At night, when the city lights flickered outside his window, he would feel tired, but not the kind of tired he used to feel when mopping floors. It was a good kind of tired, the kind that comes from doing something that mattered. Money was tight. He used the last of his savings to pay the next 2 months of rent. He skipped lunch most days and only bought groceries that were on clearance. He told himself it was temporary. By the 3rd week, Adam had completed his first beginner's course in HTML and CSS. He built a simple web page and showed it to his roommate, Kevin. Kevin raised an eyebrow. "You built this?" Adam nodded. "It's just the basics." "But yeah." "Dude," Kevin said, "you should keep going." So Adam did. The days blurred into weeks. He started waking up earlier. 8 a.m. became his new normal. He structured his day with focus. Morning, reading business articles and case studies. Afternoon, programming practice and mini projects. Evening, watching interviews with entrepreneurs, CEOs, and coders. Night, writing ideas in his notebook. He had no mentor, no formal education. But he had curiosity, and that was enough. One day, while browsing through Reddit forums, Adam saw a post titled, "I built an app in 6 months and sold it for $40,000. He clicked on it and read the entire thread 3 times. The person had started with nothing, just like him. He had learned to code on his own, built a simple productivity app, posted it on Reddit, and someone offered to buy it. That story lit something inside Adam. He wrote in his notebook that night, "I will build something of my own. I don't care if it takes 1 year or 10. 2 months passed. Adam had built 3 small websites for fake companies, just for practice. One for a flower shop, one for a small bookstore, one for a fake online journal. Each one was better than the last. He also started applying for freelance gigs. Most of the time, he didn't get a reply. Sometimes, people told him his portfolio was too weak. Others ignored him completely. But then, on a Wednesday morning, he got an email. Subject: landing page help needed. A man named Trevor was launching a fitness coaching business and needed a simple site. Adam stayed up the entire night building the best version he could. He sent it the next day. The reply came in an hour later. "Dude, this is amazing. Better than what I expected. How much do I owe you?" Adam hadn't even thought about pricing. He replied, "Whatever you think is fair. I'm just getting started." Trevor sent $150 via PayPal. It wasn't much, but it was the first money Adam had ever made with his brain, not his hands. He printed the email, folded it carefully, and placed it inside his notebook. It reminded him that he wasn't a janitor anymore. At least, not only a janitor. By month 5, Adam had worked on 7 freelance projects. Some paid little. Some didn't pay at all. But each one taught him something. He began collecting client feedback, building a simple portfolio website for himself, and reading about business models. He even started learning JavaScript. It was hard, much harder than HTML or CSS. But he kept going. Kevin noticed the difference. "You're like a machine now, man. Do you even sleep?" "Sometimes," Adam smiled. "What's the end game here?" "I'm not sure," Adam said. "But I want to build something that's mine. One day." Kevin nodded. "You will." 6 months in, Adam had an idea. A small one. He noticed how many small business owners online struggled to create simple landing pages and digital forms for their services. Many didn't have websites at all. Some relied on messy Google Docs or outdated PDFs. So he thought, what if there was a tool, super simple, where anyone could build a basic landing page in 5 minutes? No design skills. No coding. Just drag, drop, and publish. He sketched the concept in his notebook. A few nights later, he began building a prototype. It took him 2 months. He called it One Page. The first version was rough. It had bugs. It looked boring. But it worked. He launched a simple site and shared it on Reddit, Twitter, and Product Hunt. The first week, no one noticed. Then someone on Twitter with 20,000 followers shared it. Adam's notifications exploded. He got emails from freelancers, yoga teachers, and even a plumber who said, "I've been trying to get online for 2 years. Your tool finally made it happen. Thank you." Adam didn't know how to respond. He just kept updating the app. He added features, fixed bugs, rewrote the code to be faster. A month later, he enabled a $5 per month subscription for premium features. By the end of that month, he had 83 paying users. He stared at the number for a long time. $415 per month. Not much by most standards. But for someone who once cleaned toilets for less than that, this was magic. He felt something inside him shift again. One morning, while checking analytics, Adam saw something strange. A user had signed up with an email address he recognized. It was an internal company email from his old workplace. The company where he had been a janitor. At first, he laughed. Then he got curious. Was someone there using One Page? He opened the feedback dashboard. There it was. A message from a user named Rachel_W. "This is a fantastic tool. Clean, simple, powerful. Great work." Adam stared at the screen. Rachel. The same Rachel. He wasn't sure how to feel. For a moment, he thought about deleting her account. But then he remembered something. The notebook. The elevator. Her words. "You're just a janitor." He smiled, not with bitterness, but with something else. A calm kind of clarity. He didn't need to respond. Not yet. Instead, he closed his laptop and got back to work. Because he knew this was still just the beginning. That night, he walked outside for the first time in weeks without his laptop in hand. The air was cold. The wind pressed against his coat. But he didn't care. He looked up at the skyline, lit with thousands of windows from tall buildings. Behind one of those windows, someone once told him he wasn't worth anything. Now he was building something that people found useful. That people needed. 12 months had passed since Adam launched One Page. What started as a basic prototype had become a real product. He now had over 500 paying users. Most were small business owners from across the country. Barbers, tutors, plumbers, and yoga teachers. His servers were running smoothly, his email list was growing, and support tickets were being answered on time. But Adam knew something was missing. He was still doing everything alone. Design, development, marketing, customer service. Some days he felt like he was on fire with energy. Other days, he couldn't move from his desk. Then came the email that changed everything. It was from a man named Marcus Tran. Subject, Partnership Inquiry, One Page Platform. Adam read it twice. Marcus was the CEO of a digital marketing firm in San Diego. He had stumbled across One Page through a friend and wanted to talk about a potential partnership. Adam was skeptical at first. People had reached out before. Most offered vague promises. Some wanted to collaborate, but really just wanted access to his users. Others wanted to acquire his app but offered pennies. Still, Marcus sounded different. So they set up a Zoom call. Marcus appeared on screen with a confident smile and a calm voice. He wore a simple gray t-shirt and sat in a clean, bright office with large windows behind him. "Adam, what you've built is solid," Marcus said. "It's simple, focused, and fills a real need. I've worked with small businesses for 10 years. What you've built here, it works." Adam didn't know how to respond. "I'm not here to buy you out," Marcus continued. "I'm here to invest. You've hit product market fit. You need fuel to scale. And I want to be that fuel." They talked for 2 hours. By the end of the call, Adam had a lot to think about. Marcus offered $100,000 in seed funding, in exchange for 15% of the company and a seat as an advisor, not as a boss. "You keep building. I help with growth," Marcus said. Adam didn't accept right away. He took 3 days to think it through. He called Kevin. He went for walks. He looked back at his old notebook. Eventually, he said yes. The paperwork was signed, the money transferred, and the next phase began. With the funding, Adam rented a small office space in Brooklyn. It wasn't flashy, just 3 rooms and a shared coffee machine. But it had windows and a view of the street, and more importantly, it was his. He bought new equipment. Hired 2 freelancers, one to help with development, another for support. Then he met Lena, a branding consultant who specialized in startups. She helped him clean up the website, refine his messaging, and prepare for a public relaunch. They chose a date, September 1st. In the weeks leading up to the launch, Adam worked harder than ever. He barely slept. His days started at 6 a.m. and ended after midnight. But this time, he wasn't doing it out of desperation. He was doing it out of purpose. He believed in what he was building. And people were starting to notice. On launch day, they posted across social media, sent out emails, and ran a few paid ads. Within 24 hours, One Page had over 1,000 new signups. Tech blogs started writing about it. The simplest site builder for non-techies, one headline read. Others called it a game changer for solo entrepreneurs. Adam couldn't believe it. Revenue doubled, then tripled. By November, One Page had 3,200 paying users. Adam's team grew to 6 people. They had daily stand-ups, sprint planning, and customer feedback sessions. Adam still coded most of the core features, but now he had help. He wasn't just a solo janitor with a dream anymore. He was a founder, a leader. But with growth came new problems. In January, Adam got an email from his server provider. The infrastructure couldn't handle the recent spike in traffic. There were lags, some form submissions were timing out, and the mobile version had layout issues. Customers started complaining. One client posted on Twitter, "I love one page, but lately it's been so slow I can't even update my homepage." Adam replied personally, apologizing and promising a fix. He spent the next 3 nights rewriting the back-end code. He slept under his desk, ate fast food, and ignored every phone call that wasn't urgent. Finally, the update was pushed live. The platform ran faster than ever. Users noticed. "Wow, that was quick. Thanks for listening, Team One Page. This is why I stick with you guys." Adam smiled at those comments, but deep down, he felt tired. He was pushing himself harder than ever, and something inside him still whispered, "You haven't proven anything yet." Not until they knew. Not until she knew. In March, Marcus invited Adam to a networking dinner in Manhattan. It was a formal event, filled with investors, founders, and tech media. Adam had never been to anything like it. He borrowed a suit from Kevin and practiced his pitch in the mirror. The dinner was held at a luxury rooftop restaurant. Lights sparkled across the skyline. Jazz music played softly in the background. Waiters in white gloves served small plates with names Adam couldn't pronounce. He felt out of place. But when he introduced himself, "Hi, I'm Adam. I built One Page," people listened. Some had heard of it. Some asked for demos. Others asked if he was raising another round. By the end of the night, he had collected over 20 business cards. Marcus clapped him on the back. "Told you, man. You're in the game now." Adam couldn't sleep that night. Not because of nerves, but because something had shifted. This wasn't luck anymore. It was real. 2 weeks later, Adam's assistant forwarded him a job application. Position: Partnership and Strategy Manager. The resume was clean. Solid experience. Strong references. Applicant name: Rachel Williams. Adam froze. He read the name again. Then read the email that came with it. "Dear hiring team, I'm excited to apply for the open position at One Page. I've spent the last 10 years leading business strategy teams, building partnerships, and helping startups grow. I'm passionate about tools that empower small business owners. One Page caught my eye because of its clarity and focus. I believe my skills could help expand its reach even further. I'd love a chance to speak with the team. Sincerely, Rachel Williams." He sat in silence. It had been over a decade. She didn't know who was behind One Page. She had no idea she was applying to work for the same janitor she once dismissed. He didn't know how to feel. Revenge. Satisfaction. Pity. He closed the laptop and stared out the window. It was raining. That night, Adam didn't work. He didn't code. He didn't reply to messages. He just sat. Memories flooded in, of that notebook, of that elevator, of the way she said, "You're just a janitor." He hadn't thought about her face in years. Now, it was on his screen again. Smiling. Asking for a job. He opened the email one more time. And then, he made a decision. The next day, his assistant scheduled the interview. No video. Just audio. When the call started, Rachel introduced herself confidently. "Hi, this is Rachel Williams. Thank you for taking the time." Adam kept his voice steady. "Hi, Rachel," he said. "Let's begin." She didn't recognize him. Not from his voice. Not from his name, Adam S. He had dropped his last name from his public profile. Rachel spoke clearly, answered every question with confidence. She listed her achievements, talked about her failures, and even mentioned how she had left a toxic company recently to find something more meaningful. Adam didn't interrupt. He just listened. At the end of the call, she said, "Thank you again for the opportunity. I really admire what you're building." Adam paused, then said, "Rachel, do you remember working at Wexler and Stein? Around 15 years ago." She was quiet for a moment. "Yes," she said. "I do. That was my first real job." "Why?" "There was a janitor there. Young guy. Quiet. Brown hair. Used to mop the halls at night." She laughed a little. "I mean, yeah. I remember a lot of faces. Why? Adam's tone stayed calm. That was me. Silence. Longer than he expected. He could hear her breathing through the line. You, she said softly. Yes. More silence. I didn't know, she whispered. I know, Adam said. There was a pause. I'm sorry, she said. Adam nodded, though she couldn't see it. I believe you, he replied. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. The call ended. He closed the laptop, leaned back in his chair, and stared at the ceiling. She had come to him, not knowing, not planning, just searching for something better. And now he had a choice to make. For the next few days, Adam didn't speak to anyone about the interview. Not even Marcus. He kept it to himself. Rachel had applied to work for the company he built. She had spoken with excitement about the product, the mission, the users. She hadn't mentioned anything from the past. But her voice, in those final seconds, had changed. That confident tone she used at the beginning of the call, it cracked. Just a little. But Adam heard it. She remembered him. And now she knew. But that wasn't what occupied his thoughts. What filled Adam's mind was the question of what to do next. Should he give her the job? Should he call her back and say no? Should he tell his team the truth? He didn't have an answer. Instead, he dove back into work. Meetings, code updates, product plans, onboarding new clients, reviewing quarterly numbers. But Rachel's application kept sitting at the top of his inbox. Every morning he saw her name. Every night before shutting down his laptop, it was still there. On Friday evening, after everyone had left the office, Adam stayed behind. The lights were dim. Just the desk lamp glowing over his workspace. Rain tapped softly on the window. The sound reminded him of the night he resigned from his janitor job. He opened his notebook. The same one. The one he never threw away. He flipped through the pages, now worn at the edges, the ink slightly faded. Notes about web hosting. Sketches of old designs. Quotes he copied from interviews. A list of people he wanted to prove wrong. Rachel's name wasn't written anywhere in it. But he remembered every word she had said. He turned to the last page and picked up a pen. He wrote only one sentence. This is not about her anymore. He closed the notebook and shut his laptop. Then he made the call. The following week, Rachel arrived at the one-page office for her second interview. This time, it was in person. She wore a navy suit and carried a leather bag. Her hair was tied back neatly. She looked calm, prepared, confident. But when she walked into the meeting room and saw Adam standing there, everything shifted. Her posture changed slightly. Her grip on her bag tightened. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Adam stood across the room, wearing a plain black sweater and dark jeans. "Hi," he said. "Hi," Rachel replied, softly. They sat down. There was no assistant. No other team member. Just the two of them. Adam started the conversation like any other interview. "I've reviewed your resume," he said. "And I've looked through your past work. It's solid. You have the experience. You've led teams. You've worked on partnerships, expansion, retention. Your performance metrics are clear. The numbers speak." Rachel nodded. She kept her eyes on him. "I appreciate that," she said. Adam continued. "The only thing missing is why." "Why what? Why you want this job?" Rachel hesitated. She looked down for a moment, then back up. "I've been chasing titles for most of my career," she said. "Trying to prove something. To others, to myself. I don't even know anymore. But somewhere along the way, I stopped building things that mattered." Adam didn't interrupt. "I've worked at companies where people shouted over each other, where numbers mattered more than people. I've been on teams where success was just survival." She took a breath. "I came across one page through a tweet. Someone posted a screenshot of your builder. I clicked it, and I spent 4 hours playing with it. Not because I had to, but because it was simple and kind." Adam raised his eyebrows. "Kind." Rachel nodded. I know that's not a word people use for tech, but that's how it felt. Like it was built for someone who's tired of being left behind. Adam leaned back slightly. Silence filled the room again. Rachel broke it. I didn't know it was you, she said. When I applied. When we spoke. Not until you said it on the call. And when I realized. I felt ashamed. Adam didn't respond. I remember what I said to you, she continued. I remember your face when I rejected the notebook. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was protecting my image. But I was just small. Her voice didn't tremble. It stayed even. She wasn't begging. She wasn't emotional. She was honest. Adam nodded slowly. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the streetlights glowed on the wet pavement. A bus passed by. A couple holding hands crossed the intersection. He spoke without turning around. I used to wonder, he said, what I would say if I ever saw you again. Whether I'd want revenge. Whether I'd throw your resume in the trash just like you threw away that notebook. Rachel didn't speak. But I realized something. That version of me, the one who wanted to prove something to you, that version no longer runs this company. He turned around. I do. She looked at him, listening carefully. So here's what I'm going to do, Adam said. He walked to the table and picked up a folder. He handed it to her. Inside was an offer letter. Same salary range they offered to other senior managers. Same benefits. Same expectations. Rachel looked at it, then looked up. You're serious? Adam nodded. I don't hire people based on my past. I hire people who can help build the future. Rachel held the folder carefully, as if it were something fragile. I don't expect you to forget, she said. What I said. Or how I acted. I haven't forgotten, Adam replied. But I'm not here to punish you. I'm here to build something better. He reached into his bag and pulled out something small. Her eyes widened. It was the notebook. The same one. A little worn now, the corners bent, but still intact. He placed it on the table. I kept it, he said. Because back then, that was the only thing that made me feel like I could be more than what the world saw. Rachel touched the cover with her fingertips. She didn't open it. May I keep it? Adam shook his head. No, he said gently. Not yet. She understood. She stood up, held the offer letter with both hands, and said, Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't waste it. Adam nodded once. Then he opened the door and let her walk out. The following Monday, Rachel showed up for her first day at one page. She wasn't given special treatment. No welcome banner. No grand tour. Just a company badge, a desk, and a task list. But something felt different. For her. And for Adam. Every time she passed his office, she nodded respectfully. Not out of fear, but out of something else. Awareness. Recognition. Humility. And over time, Rachel proved she wasn't here to climb over anyone. She was here to lift. In meetings, she listened more than she spoke. She took notes. She asked questions. She mentored junior staff. She didn't interrupt. The team noticed. Some were surprised. Others didn't know her past. But Adam did. And he watched closely. Not to catch her mistakes, but to understand the change. Weeks turned into months. The company crossed 10,000 users. Then 15,000. And one day, during a quarterly planning meeting, Adam announced something new. We've been building for small businesses, he said. But now it's time to think bigger. Rachel was the one who raised her hand and said, I know an investor who might be interested. Adam nodded. Then let's schedule a meeting. She smiled. A real smile. And in that moment, something closed. Not a door, but a circle. A chapter. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. The janitor had become the boss. Rachel arrived at the office earlier than usual. It had been 3 months since she officially joined OnePage, and she hadn't missed a single workday. Every morning, she walked through the glass doors at 7:45 a.m., 20 minutes before anyone else. She made coffee, reviewed her calendar, checked project statuses, and prepared for the day. She had her own desk, her own schedule, and her own tasks, but she treated every meeting, every note, every conversation with the same weight she once reserved only for boardrooms. To some, she was just the new strategy manager. But to Adam, she was something else entirely. A mirror from the past. Not in the way she spoke now, but in the way she used to. Back then, Rachel had spoken like someone who needed control. Now, she spoke like someone who was learning to understand. Adam noticed the difference. Quietly, carefully, without ever saying a word about it. One Friday morning, the team gathered in the main meeting room for the company's monthly progress review. Adam stood at the whiteboard, pointing to a chart showing rising user growth. "We're at 17,430 users," he said. "Up 22% from last month. Churn is down. Engagement is stable. Revenue is on track." People clapped lightly. Rachel looked down at her notepad, where she had written 3 questions. When the room quieted, she raised her hand. "I've been reviewing user behavior by cohort," she said. "And I noticed that users who sign up through Twitter tend to drop off faster than those from direct referrals." Adam tilted his head slightly. "By how much?" "Almost 40%, Rachel replied. "Especially solo freelancers. They visit once or twice, then never come back." Adam crossed his arms. "Ideas," Rachel continued. "They're overwhelmed. Too many features, not enough onboarding. We might want to experiment with a simplified dashboard view for new users." There was a pause. Then Lena, the branding consultant, spoke up. "We could A/B test that next week." "Good," Adam said. "Let's move on it." Rachel didn't smile. She didn't need to. She simply nodded and wrote a note to herself. This was her rhythm now. Watch, listen, contribute, build. That afternoon, Adam called her into his office. She stepped in, notebook in hand, expecting another data question or project update. But Adam was standing by the window, not sitting behind his desk. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down," he said. She did. "I wanted to ask you something," Adam said. "Not as your manager. Just as someone who remembers." Rachel looked up, calm but attentive. "You've changed," he said. "From the person I met all those years ago." "What happened?" Rachel took a breath. She didn't rush. "I used to think success was about speed," she said. "How fast I could get ahead. How quickly I could climb. I thought if I moved fast enough, I could outrun doubt, fear, even shame." Adam said nothing. He let her continue. "But eventually, I ran into people I couldn't outrun. Colleagues who were smarter, kinder, better. And I realized I wasn't really climbing. I was just pushing other people down so I wouldn't fall." She looked at him now, her eyes steady. "I didn't leave Wexler and Stein because I was bored. I left because I became the kind of manager I used to hate. I was efficient, respected, but not trusted, not loved." Adam listened closely. "And then," Rachel said, "I saw one page. It wasn't just a product. It was clean, human. It reminded me what it feels like to be new, to be lost, to be small. And I remembered the way I treated you back then, and I knew I had to start again." Adam walked to his desk and pulled out the notebook. The same one. This time, he handed it to her. Rachel took it with both hands. She didn't speak. She opened it slowly, gently flipping through the pages. The words were simple. Handwritten. No perfect lines. Just notes. Ideas. Quotes. Fragments of a journey. She ran her fingers over one of the first entries. "I don't know how, but I'll figure it out." She closed the notebook and handed it back. "Keep it," Adam said. Rachel hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes," he said. "It belongs to the person who made me write it." Her throat tightened, but she didn't cry. Not here. Not now. Instead, she stood up, straightened her blouse, and said, "Thank you." Then she walked out of the room. Adam sat down slowly. He had waited 15 years to hear those words. Now that he had, they didn't taste like revenge. They tasted like closure. Over the next few weeks, things moved faster. The team expanded. One page reached 25,000 users. They launched in Canada and the UK. New languages were added. New templates were built. Rachel led a new initiative called First 5 Minutes, a program designed to help new users understand the platform in under 5 minutes. She coordinated design, marketing, and support to work together. Within 2 months, user activation improved by 18%. One afternoon, while presenting the results during a company-wide meeting, she paused mid-sentence. Adam noticed. Rachel looked at the slide on the projector. It was a timeline showing user growth. On the bottom corner, it said, "Platform founded by Adam S., 2020. She stared at it for a second too long. Then she continued her presentation. But Adam saw the look in her eyes. Not regret, not guilt, but respect. That evening, as the office emptied, Rachel stayed behind. Adam noticed her still at her desk when he walked out of his office. He walked over. "Need something?" he asked. Rachel looked up. "No. Just finishing some notes." There was a pause. "Do you regret applying here?" Adam asked. Rachel smiled slightly. "No," she said. "This place reminded me who I wanted to be." Adam nodded. Then he said something he hadn't said in 15 years. "Do you want coffee?" Rachel looked surprised. "Sure." They walked down to the street-level cafe together. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small shop with warm lights and quiet music. They ordered, sat near the window, talked. Not about work, not about numbers, but about books, families, past mistakes, future hopes. And when they walked back to the office, it wasn't as boss and employee. It was just two people who had been lost before, and now were building something that mattered. On Monday, Adam announced something unexpected. "We're going to open a new branch," he said in the meeting. "Not in New York. Not in LA. In a small town. Somewhere people don't expect tech to live." The team looked confused. "Why?" someone asked. Adam smiled. "Because success shouldn't only live in big cities," he said. "It should grow where it's needed most." He looked at Rachel. She nodded. She understood. Because once, they both came from places like that. Once, they were both just names no one remembered. But now they were building something unforgettable. Together. 6 months had passed since Rachel joined the one-page team. During that time, the company had doubled in size, both in employees and in reach. What was once a startup in a rented Brooklyn office had grown into something much larger. One Page now had over 50,000 users across 8 countries. Support was offered in 5 different languages. A mobile version was in beta. Investors were circling. But Adam was focused on something else. A second location. A branch outside of the city. Away from the noise and pressure of the tech world. A place where real people built real things with very little help. A place like where he came from. When he announced the decision, some team members were confused. "Wouldn't it be more efficient to expand in major hubs?" one strategist asked. "Maybe," Adam said. "But this isn't just about scale. It's about impact." So he and Rachel flew to a small town in Pennsylvania. Population just under 20,000. A town with one main street, 2 coffee shops, and 1 old public library that doubled as a community center. They spent 3 days meeting with small business owners. A bakery run by a single mother who sold cakes online but didn't have a proper website. A retired couple who repaired watches from their garage. A high school art teacher who started an online print shop during the pandemic but had trouble getting customers. Each conversation reminded Adam why he built One Page in the first place. Not for tech blogs. Not for funding rounds. For people like this. After returning to New York, Rachel scheduled a company-wide meeting. She stood in front of a slideshow filled with photos from their trip. Ordinary people. Simple places. Honest work. "This," she said, pointing to the screen, "is the future." Everyone listened. We talk about growth, scale, and product market fit. But we forget that the people who need us most aren't reading TechCrunch. They're baking bread at 5 a.m. They're raising kids. They're fixing broken things with their hands. She clicked to the next slide, an old man in a workshop surrounded by tiny gears and watch parts. This man repairs watches. He's been doing it for 40 years. But now, people don't know he exists. He needs a digital presence. Not for status, but for survival. She paused. That's who we're building for. There was silence in the room. Then applause. Not loud, but long. And genuine. Later that week, Adam met with Marcus on a rooftop lounge. It was one of those upscale places with glass barriers, velvet seats, and soft jazz playing in the background. Marcus leaned back in his chair, sipping a neat glass of whiskey. "You're doing something different," he said. "Most founders would use this momentum to go big, fast. But you're choosing small towns and manual onboarding. Why?" Adam looked out at the skyline. "I used to be invisible," he said. "I know how that feels." Marcus nodded slowly. "You're turning your story into a business model." "I'm turning my story into a bridge," Adam said. They sat in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, "You'll have to tell that story publicly. Sooner or later." Adam didn't answer. 2 weeks later, a journalist reached out. She was writing a feature on tech companies creating social impact outside of Silicon Valley. She wanted to interview Adam. He agreed. The interview took place in the office meeting room. No cameras. Just a voice recorder and a notepad. The journalist, a woman named Elise, asked direct questions. "Tell me about your background. What inspired One Page? What do you think makes your company different?" Adam answered honestly, but carefully. He spoke about his early jobs. He mentioned how he started learning on his own. He talked about building the product piece by piece in a small room with no heating. But he didn't mention Rachel. Not her name. Not their past. Not yet. Then Elise asked a different kind of question. "Have you ever felt underestimated?" Adam looked at her. "Yes," he said simply. "By who?" He paused. And for the first time, he said it out loud. "By someone who once thought I was invisible." Elise looked up from her notes. "Do they know what you've become?" Adam smiled faintly. "They work here now." The article was published a week later. It was titled, "From Janitor to CEO, The Quiet Power Behind One Page." The story went viral. Not because of drama, but because of how simple it was. Adam didn't brag. He didn't attack. He didn't claim to be a genius. He just shared what it felt like to start from the bottom. To be ignored. To build something anyway. People shared it across platforms. LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit. Users commented. "This is the kind of tech leadership we need." Respect to this man. "I've never used One Page, but I'm signing up today." In the office, staff members walked a little taller. They were proud to be part of something that wasn't just profitable, but meaningful. Rachel read the article quietly at her desk. When she reached the part where Adam said, "They work here now," she knew it was about her. And she didn't feel exposed. She felt seen. For the first time in a long time, not for what she had done, but for what she was trying to become. Later that week, Adam called her into his office. He handed her a folder. Inside was a formal letter. Rachel read the first line and blinked. "Promotion?" she asked. "Director of Growth," Adam said. Rachel looked up. "You're serious?" "You've earned it," Adam replied. She took a deep breath. Then signed the letter. Not out of pride, but out of responsibility. That Friday, during the team all hands, Adam made an announcement. "We're opening our second office," he said. "In Pennsylvania." Applause broke out. Rachel stood near the back, hands folded. "And to lead the new office," Adam continued, "we've appointed someone who's helped shape our growth from the inside. Someone who's proven that people can change. And that change creates progress." He turned slightly. "Rachel Williams will serve as Director of Growth and lead our expansion team in Pennsylvania." More applause. Rachel stepped forward and nodded. Not as a performance, but as a promise. In the following days, as Rachel prepared for the move, she found herself walking the office halls more slowly. She greeted people, answered questions, shared notes and resources. She even hosted a mentorship lunch for junior team members. People who once viewed her as distant now saw her as approachable. One afternoon, as she packed the last box in her office, she paused. There, sitting neatly on the shelf, was the old notebook. She picked it up, flipped to the first page. Read the quote again. Work hard in silence. Let success make the noise. She closed it gently and placed it in her bag. Not to return it, but to carry it forward. Because the story wasn't over. Not even close. The air in Pennsylvania felt different. It wasn't just the cold breeze or the quiet streets. It was the pace of things. The way time seemed to move more slowly here. People said good morning to each other. Coffee shops remembered your name. The rush that filled every minute in New York seemed to loosen its grip once Rachel arrived. She stood in front of the small red brick building that would become one-page second office. It used to be a post office, then a shared workspace, and now, something else. Something she had to build from the ground up. There were no banners, no grand openings. Just Rachel, a set of keys, a notebook, and a mission. Inside, the space was simple. White walls, wood floors, 5 rooms, and a big open area with tall windows. There were no desks yet. No chairs. Just sunlight streaming through dusty glass and the echo of footsteps. Rachel placed her bag on the floor and stood in the center of the room. She took a deep breath and got to work. Over the next few weeks, Rachel did what most directors in tech never do. She built everything herself. Not the code, but the foundation. She ordered tables and chairs and helped carry them inside. She set up the router and called the service company when it didn't work. She painted the walls with 2 local volunteers who just wanted to help. She visited the small businesses Adam had introduced her to, the baker, the art teacher, the watch repairman, and listened to what they needed. Not what tech people assumed. What they actually needed. We just want something simple, the baker told her. Something that works and doesn't break when I press the wrong button. Rachel nodded and took notes. What's a landing page? The teacher asked her. She didn't laugh. She answered patiently. It's like a digital poster for your business. A place online people can find you. Oh, okay. I like that. Rachel smiled. That night, she updated the onboarding process again. Within a month, the new office was ready. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm, clean, real. The first hire was Jonah, a local college grad who taught himself design on YouTube. He was quiet but fast. His wireframes were clean, and his feedback was thoughtful. The second hire was Maria, a single mom with a customer service background. She had never worked in tech before, but she understood how to speak to people. Calm, clear, empathetic. After her first week, support ticket resolution time dropped by 20%. The third hire was Jacob, a former mechanic who had taken online courses in front-end development. He wasn't confident at first, but Rachel saw something in him. A calm focus. A steady hand. She trained them herself. Not through webinars or recorded videos. In person. One by one. She sat next to them, watched how they worked, and gave feedback gently. They asked her questions. She answered every one. Sometimes twice. In meetings, she didn't stand at the front. She sat with the team. Shared stories from her past, both wins and mistakes. One afternoon, during a feedback session, Maria asked, "What made you want to start this office here, instead of, like, Chicago or Atlanta?" Rachel thought for a moment. "Because this town reminds me of who I used to be," she said. "And who I want to be again." No one asked anything else after that. They understood. Back in New York, Adam received weekly updates. Charts. Progress notes. Bug reports. Photos of the new office team. In every photo, Rachel was smiling, but not leading from the front. She stood with the team, not in front of them. That told Adam everything he needed to know. He never sent her instructions. Just one line replies. Looks great. Proud of what you're building. Keep going. Rachel never asked for approval. But those words meant everything. By the third month, the Pennsylvania office had on board over 300 new users. Most came from local referrals. Some were from regional Facebook groups. Others just walked into the office and asked, "Is this the tech company that helps small shops?" Rachel created something unexpected, a walk-in demo booth. People could visit, sit at a computer, and test one page live. Jonah created a printed guidebook. Maria offered coffee and cookies. It wasn't scalable, but it worked. And word spread. Then came the challenge. A small business alliance in the region reached out. They wanted Rachel to present one page at a regional trade fair. A chance to show what her team was building. Over 400 small businesses would attend. The press would be there. Local news. Maybe even state representatives. Jonah was nervous. Maria was excited. Jacob started designing posters before anyone asked. But Rachel, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Doubt. Not because she didn't believe in one page, but because she wasn't sure how people would see her. In New York, she had a title, a reputation, a buffer. Here, she was just a person trying to build something in an old building with second-hand chairs. The night before the event, she stayed late at the office. Alone. She opened her laptop and reread the first version of her presentation. It was clean, professional, impressive, but it felt wrong. Too polished, too far from the people she wanted to reach. She deleted it, started over. She wrote from scratch. And the first line of her new presentation was this: "I used to work in offices where people like you were never invited. Today, I'm here because I want to change that." The next morning, Rachel stood on the stage in a small-town convention center. The seats were full. The lights were warm. Her team sat in the front row. She wasn't wearing a suit. Just jeans, boots, and a clean button-down. She took the mic, looked at the crowd, and began. "I'm not here to talk about tech," she said. "I'm here to talk about time." People leaned in. Time you've wasted filling out forms. Trying to build websites that don't work. Time you've spent explaining your business over and over to people who don't listen. "I know what that feels like." She told them about one page. About landing pages. About customers finding them online without spending money on ads. About printing flyers with QR codes that led to mobile-ready sites. About simplicity. Then she paused and said, "I didn't build this. A man named Adam did. He used to clean floors. Then he taught himself how to build something better. Now I work for him." There was silence. Then applause. The kind that didn't feel polite. The kind that felt like belief. That night, after the event, Rachel got a message from Adam. "Saw the clip. You spoke well. They heard you." Rachel replied, "Thank you. I wouldn't be here if you hadn't let me in." Adam sent one more message. "You let yourself in. I just opened the door." In the following weeks, the Pennsylvania office became more than just an office. It became a hub. For learning. For building. For second chances. A retired teacher volunteered to teach free digital literacy classes there every Wednesday night. A teenage girl started interning during summer break. A man who had been laid off after 30 years in retail stopped by one afternoon just to ask, "Can someone teach me what a domain name is?" Maria sat with him for 2 hours. No one rushed. No one judged. And the man came back the next day. Not because he needed to. Because he wanted to. Rachel watched it all. She watched a product turn into a place. A place turn into a purpose. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was chasing anything. She felt like she had arrived. Not at the top, but at the right place. And that was enough. Adam had never liked cameras. In photos, his expression always looked off, either too blank or too forced. He didn't like stages. He didn't like panels. And he certainly didn't like the sound of his own voice echoing through microphones in large halls. But now, he had no choice. Since the article went viral, invitations poured in. Podcasts, news segments, university lectures. Some wanted him to talk about entrepreneurship. Some wanted to hear his backstory. Others just wanted a rags to riches soundbite for their next clip. For a while, Adam ignored them. He didn't care about fame. He cared about work. But Marcus called one morning with a different perspective. "Your silence worked before," Marcus said. "But now people want your voice. They're not asking for a show. They're asking for truth." Adam didn't answer immediately. So Marcus added, "And if you don't tell your story, someone else will." That last part stuck. So Adam agreed to one interview. Just one. A recorded video feature with a well-known business storyteller on YouTube. The format was simple. One camera. One chair. One long conversation. Adam wore his usual clothes, plain shirt, dark jeans, and old sneakers. He didn't wear makeup. He didn't practice scripted answers. He just showed up. The studio was quiet. The host, an older man named Greg, greeted him with a firm handshake and a warm smile. "Ready?" Greg asked. "Not really," Adam replied. Greg laughed. "You'll be fine." The cameras rolled. The first few questions were basic. Where he grew up. What inspired him. What one page was all about. Adam answered directly. No fancy words. No marketing fluff. Then Greg leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about the notebook." Adam paused. He looked down at his hands, then back at the camera. "It wasn't about the notebook," he said. "It was about being seen." Greg didn't interrupt. "For a long time, I thought I just needed someone to believe in me. But then I realized I had to believe in myself first." Greg nodded. "And the woman who rejected it?" Adam's voice didn't change. "She works with me now." "And how does that feel?" Adam smiled faintly. "Like I chose the right kind of revenge." Greg raised an eyebrow. "Forgiveness?" "No," Adam said. "Redirection." The room fell quiet. Then Greg spoke softly. "I think people are going to remember that line." The video was published the following week. Within 48 hours, it had 1.2 million views. Comments flooded in. "I felt every word this man said. That's how you turn pain into purpose." Subscribe to One Page 5 minutes in. No regrets. This man didn't take revenge. He took control. Adam didn't watch the numbers climb. He turned off notifications after the first hour. But Rachel watched it. Alone. In her office. With the lights off. She didn't cry. She didn't smile either. She just listened. And when Adam said, it wasn't about being forgiven. It was about becoming someone better, she understood exactly what he meant. Because she had been doing the same. The attention brought new challenges. Adam started receiving messages from strangers. Some were kind. Some were emotional. Some were cruel. One message read, "Bet you're enjoying the pity points." Another said, "Janitor to CEO? More like marketing stunt." But most were like this. "I thought I was worthless. Your story changed that." Adam saved that one, printed it, and taped it behind his desk, so he could see it every morning. Not for ego, for grounding. At the Pennsylvania office, Rachel noticed changes too. More walk-ins, more questions, more curiosity, but also more scrutiny. Some people came just to meet the woman from the video. Others whispered, "That's her, the one who told him he was just a janitor." Rachel never confirmed or denied it. She just kept working, kept showing up early, kept staying late. When someone asked about the past, she said, "I can't change who I was, but I can choose who I become." And people respected that. Not everyone, but enough. One day, a teacher from the local community college visited the office. Her name was Nina. She wanted to set up a workshop using One Page for students interested in entrepreneurship. Rachel agreed immediately. The following week, she stood in front of a classroom of 19-year-olds, explaining how a landing page could be the beginning of a dream. Most listened politely. One raised his hand. "So your company started from nothing?" Rachel nodded. "Pretty much. And now you're on YouTube?" Rachel smiled. "Sort of." He leaned back. "That's cool." Another student asked, "Did you build the product?" "No," Rachel said honestly. "I helped it grow." And then one girl, sitting in the corner, raised her hand. Her voice was quiet. "Were you really the one who told him he wasn't good enough?" The room froze. Rachel didn't look shocked. She nodded slowly. "Yes," she said. "I was." The students waited. "I was wrong." That was all she said. Then she moved on. The question never came up again. That night, she emailed Adam. Subject: "Had a moment today. Buddy." One of the students asked me if I was the woman. I told them yes. I told them I was wrong. "I just thought you should know." Adam replied 2 hours later. "Thanks for owning it. Keep going." Weeks passed. The Pennsylvania office became a local landmark. Not because it was flashy, but because people trusted it. Jonah started mentoring students after hours. Maria helped a bakery owner automate orders with one-page forms. Jacob gave a talk at the town library about building websites without fear. And Rachel, she watched them all. Quietly. Proudly. She didn't need to lead loudly anymore. She had become the kind of leader who makes space for others to rise. Meanwhile, back in New York, Adam had his own changes to manage. The investor meetings became more serious. A new funding round was being prepared. Big numbers. Bigger expectations. But Adam stayed focused on one thing: not losing the heart of what made them different. He called Rachel on a Thursday evening. They hadn't spoken by phone in weeks. "How's Pennsylvania?" he asked. "Growing," she said. "In more ways than I expected." They talked for 10 minutes. Before hanging up, Adam said, "Want to come back for a visit? The team misses you." Rachel paused. "Honestly, I'd like that." The visit was scheduled for the following week. Rachel packed light. She flew in on a Wednesday morning, took a cab straight to the Brooklyn office, and walked through the same doors where she had once been the new hire. People welcomed her warmly. No awkwardness. No tension. Just real smiles. Real connections. Adam was in his office when she arrived. He stood up, walked around the desk, and gave her a nod. "Good to see you." "You too." They sat down. Rachel pulled out a report. "Got updates?" Adam waved it off. "Not today." She tilted her head. "Then why did you bring me back?" He looked at her calmly. "You built something I couldn't. I just wanted to say thank you. In person." Rachel didn't know what to say. So she said the only thing that mattered. "You're welcome." They sat in silence. Not uncomfortable. Just peaceful. Then Adam stood up and said, "Let's get lunch. My treat." Rachel smirked. "You finally spending money?" Adam smiled. "Only for people who used to throw away my notebooks." Rachel laughed. And they walked out together. Boss and director. Colleagues. But more than that. People who had changed. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. It had been 2 years since Rachel opened the Pennsylvania office. What began as 5 people in a renovated brick building had grown into a local tech ecosystem. Not just jobs, but opportunities. Not just software, but skills. She had launched internship programs with the local college. She had hired developers who never thought they'd work in tech. And every week, someone new walked through the door with a simple question. "Can you help me start?" And the answer was always yes. The model had worked so well that Adam approved 2 more regional branches, one in the Midwest, another in the South. Rachel helped train their leaders, using the same approach: listen first. Build slow. Focus on people, not press. She was no longer building redemption. She was building the future. Back in New York, Adam spent less time in meetings and more time with product design. He liked staying close to the thing he had created. His leadership team handled the operations now. Rachel led growth. Lena handled partnerships. Marcus had joined the board full-time. Adam finally allowed himself to breathe. He still arrived at the office early. Still wrote ideas in his notebook. Still reviewed customer feedback personally. But he also took long walks in the afternoon. Visited bookstores. Read. His past didn't haunt him anymore. But he hadn't forgotten it. Every now and then, when new interns joined, he told his story during onboarding. Not to impress them. To remind them that no one starts at the top. That titles don't define your value. That quiet work matters. And every time, someone would stay behind after and say, "Thanks for sharing that. I needed to hear it." And Adam would smile, nod, and say, "So did I." Then one day, something unexpected arrived in the mail. A handwritten letter. No return address. Just a small envelope with his name on it. Inside was a photo. A printed picture of an old office building. The same building he once cleaned at night. Taped below it was a sticky note with 5 words. "You were never just anything." There was no signature. But he knew. Rachel had never said those words out loud. But now, after all this time, she didn't have to. In April, One Page hosted its first company-wide retreat. Employees from every branch gathered in a rented lodge near a lake. No laptops. No deadlines. Just people. Talking. Eating. Laughing. On the final night, they held a small event. Anyone could speak. Some shared stories of growth. Some read poems. Some just stood in front of their teammates and said thank you. Then Rachel walked to the front. She stood without notes, looked around the room, and said, "I once worked at a place where I thought success meant stepping over others. I was wrong. Success is building something that makes people feel seen." She turned toward Adam. "And I wouldn't have known that if someone hadn't chosen to see me first." Silence. Then applause. Not forced. Not polite. Real. Afterwards, as people mingled and packed, Rachel walked up to Adam. "Thank you," she said again. "You already thanked me," he replied. "I know. But I mean it more now." Adam nodded. Then he pulled something from his bag. A notebook. Brand new. Unmarked. He handed it to her. "For the next chapter," he said. Rachel took it carefully. "I'll fill it well. I know you will." A few months later, a new user signed up for One Page. He was 19. Worked nights at a hardware store. Lived in a shared apartment with no internet of his own. He had no experience in tech. But he had an idea. He built his first landing page using a template labeled Beginner, 1 section. He posted it online. 2 weeks later, he got his first customer. He emailed support and wrote, "This is the first time I felt like I could actually do something on my own. Whoever built this, thank you." Rachel forwarded the email to Adam. He replied with 2 words. "Keep going." Because that was the point. Not to be remembered, but to remind others what they could become. Adam still didn't like cameras. He still didn't enjoy speeches. But when people asked what One Page was, he had a simple answer. "It's the company I needed when no one believed in me." And now, it was the company helping others believe in themselves. The story didn't end with a twist. It didn't need a perfect ending. Because the story was never just his. It was everyone's. And it was still being written. One page at a time.